Homework 8, problem 2. So in this problem, you're asked to write a loop that determines the sum of the fractions 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 all the way to 1 over 100. Okay, so let's go to MATLAB. And this time I'm going to start a new script and try to write all my lines in one script. So I basically, let's add a comment, want to find the sum of the fractions 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 plus all the way to 1 over 100. So it's obvious from here that I want to do something 100 times, right? So I want to run an expression or run an addition process 100 times. So I need a loop that runs 100 times, and with every iteration it is adding the extra fraction, right? Fraction 1 over n. So let's do this. Sum, you need a for. Again, first line is your for line. I need my index and my values over which I want this index to run. My initial value will be 1. My final value will be 100. And for every time I run the loop, I need to basically determine 1 over I and add it to an ongoing fraction sum, right? So let's create a variable. Let's call it fraction sum. And I'm going to initialize this variable outside the loop, similar to problem number 1, by initially setting it to 0. So again, you have to be careful when multiplying numbers. Your initial value of the variable you're using to save your expressions should be equal to 1, because anything multiplied by 1 is equal to the number itself. However, when adding numbers, it's always good to use 0, because anything plus 0 is equal to 0. So if I use 1, for example, it's gonna give me a wrong calculation, so that's why I have to start with 0. So my fraction sum is equal to 0, and then while I'm looping from 1 to 100, I want to update this variable fraction sum by adding 1 over I to it. So fraction sum has to be equal to the previous value of fraction sum plus 1 over I. So I'm basically updating this expression every time, and then end to exit the loop. And if I do this, I should be able to get this value for this expression right here. So so one thing I'm going to do, which is good practice, is I'm going to put a semicolon here, and the idea is that I don't want it to show me this number every time it runs the loop. I just want it to show me the final number. And then at the very end, I'll just write display fraction sum so that it only shows me the final result of this loop. So once you get this stage in a script, I'm gonna click on the play button to run it. It's gonna ask me to save it somewhere. Again, save it in a place which is easy for you to find. I'm gonna call it homework 8, small number 2, and then once it's saved, try to run it again, add to path, whatever, let it add to the path, all of this stuff, and you should be able to, so in the command window at the bottom, it should be able to run without any issues to calculate your number for this sum. So again, let's recap this problem. You're asked to find the sum of the fractions 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 all the way to 1 over 100 using a for loop. So we created a for loop which runs between 1 to 100, and in every iteration or in every time the loop runs, I'm just adding the expression 1 over I to my to a variable which is saving the sum of all of this. So the variable I'm using is fraction underscore sum, and I initialize this variable to 0. And again, when you're adding, it's always good to initialize it to 0. When you're multiplying, it's always good to initialize it to 1. So we initialize it to 0, and I have fraction underscore sum is equal to fraction underscore sum plus 1 over I, and this should get this expression. To explain it further, let's try and go through this loop step by step and see if it makes sense. So initially for this loop, your variable fraction underscore sum is equal to 0. And then for the first iteration of the loop, you have I is equal to 1, and fraction underscore sum in this case is equal to 0 plus 1 over I, which is 1 over 1. For the second iteration, you have I is equal to 2, and this variable fraction underscore sum becomes equal to 0 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 over I, which is 1 over 2, etc. Third iteration, I becomes 3, and fraction underscore sum in this case becomes 0 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2, which is its initial previous value plus 1 over I, which is 1 over 3. And this will continue all the way to 1 over 100, basically, which is what this question is asking for.